and welcome to a very chilly Djuma private game reserve for this sunrise safari. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have dangerous Dave Easterbach on camera. We have Jamie and Jean-Ray out on the other vehicle, and Rebecca and Louise in final control. And it's very cold. It's 11 degrees Celsius, about 52 Fahrenheit. But the good news is there's been a leopard calling, and the last call was in this area somewhere. So I'm going to check up towards the northern boundary, but it's been moving steadily east from in front of Gallagher Camp, and that's probably what those elephants were so upset at a little bit earlier this morning. Oh, sorry, my earpiece is falling out. So, exciting stuff. Now we're just hoping for that rasping cough of a male leopard. I think it's a male leopard. I only caught the tail end of it, but it sounds something like this. No response. So let's go see if we can find this creature before I turn into a popsicle. So as I just mentioned, it's more than likely that elephant was shrieking because of this leopard moving through the area, and Chris Rogue was wondering that. Now, Lex is not out yet, and he heard it from camp, and he said it sounded like Gowrie cut line. So we're going to check Gowrie cut line. That's just an impala. We're not going to blind the poor creature. Gowrie cut lines had cats abounding. We had that mating pair here the other day. And now it sounds like a leopard in the area. More impala. Haven't heard any alarm calls just yet. But if it is a male leopard, he could be on the move. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep driving, and every now and then we're just going to switch off and listen carefully in the quiet and hope to catch his audio. Red Dog thought I was wearing socks on my hand for a second. No, just my mitts. They're quite useful because I can pop them open if I need to use my fingers, but there's no need right now. So while we continue the search for this leopard, let's go to Jamie so she can bid you a good morning.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. I probably don't need to comment on how nippy it is this morning. I'm sure Brent has already got that covered. But I'm going to again, because at this point I'm not entirely sure if I'm still in possession of all 10 fingers. I think that Brent's sock-like gloves are probably more effective than my sort of fingerless ones. I think it's time to progress to something more efficient as cover. But yes, good morning. My name is Jamie, and I have Jean-Ray on camera with me as we head out into the chilly morning air to see if we can help Brent find that leopard that's been calling around the camp. What I'm just doing quickly before we do that, since Brent is already hot on its trail, is to look for that hyena that was calling somewhere around here, just because it's so wonderful to have that whooping sound caught on camera. Most of you have been hearing them all through the night on the various cameras, whether they be the Djuma or the Arathusa Dam cameras. And oh dear, my hat's doing this thing. It's trying to creep up. Stay down. Stop making me look silly. This hyena was somewhere here, doing that wonderful whooping contact call that hyenas are so famous for. It's a beautiful sound. And he's also doing that woo sound, that sort of looping upwards and downwards call. I was hoping we might catch him on camera. I'm almost certain it's a him, just because in general, the clan males, first of all, hang out around quarantine far more, but also, secondly, they spend, as clan males, they actually spend quite a great deal of time reinforcing the clan's territorial position and actually play quite an integral part in the whole hyena clan society. They have been recorded as calling more frequently throughout the night than females. That being said, that's all literally noise and bluster, because I don't know where he's gone. He's probably on his way back towards the den. Last night, when we were sitting up here around fireside chat, having a lovely time after the show had ended, we all sat round the fire and just had a chat amongst ourselves, and we were joined by that not massive herd of buffalo, actually, that's an exaggeration. I'm doing the James thing, the giant herd of buffalo, of about 100 buffalo, wandering onto quarantine. And they sort of stood and watched us for quite a long period of time. So it was a really lovely, peaceful evening. I'm not sure where they've gone from there. We did do a careful sweep looking for lion tracks to make sure that they haven't moved through this area yet. But since we're here and since the morning light is slowly starting to warm, not temperature-wise, just light-wise. See, I'm learning so much from this job. I can talk about warm light. Jandre is chuckling away at the back there. Let's have a look at one of the most photogenic animals, and the moon. The moon also adds a little bit to this sighting. Good morning, zebra. It also gives me just a chance to listen for any leopard calls. I can hear some ground hornbill not too far away. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So do the zebra. Shame. You can imagine if we're feeling it as we are, although admittedly we are traveling on a vehicle, so we've got the wind chill factor. But you can just imagine how chilly it is spending the night up here on quarantine, especially since it's very dewy at the moment. They're probably a little bit soggy as well as cold. Hey, little zebra. Shame. This little one's still retaining a bit of the fluffiness from its young foal state, but almost at the size of an adult now. And all of the animals are clustering around, the buffalo included and the zebra as well, clustering around these open clearings in the evenings, so that they've got plenty of opportunity to spot a predator that might be trying to sneak up on them. It's difficult to sneak through a clearing. This is the perfect patch in which to spend one's morning. Now, my plan is actually to head across to Cheetah Plains. Oh wow, look at this scene. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, my plan is to head across to Cheetah Plains, so I'm not going to dilly-dally for too long here. Got to get ourselves moving. But first, just a glorious look at the full moon. Hey, that's so cool. Absolutely wonderful. You see all of the craters on the moon. I'm making sure that I don't move an inch in my seat and ruin Jandre's perfect shot. And all through last night, every time I woke up, there was the ubiquitous Cape turtle dove calling away in confusion, thanks to the full moon light that was out last night. Beautiful. Thank you, Jandre. That was really lovely. Okay, but now we must carry on and see if we can't help Brent out of that leopard. So Lex called us. He said the leopard is moving east Brent's sort of directly where he thinks the leopard might be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut north and then travel east and see how that goes, just in case that leopard does go to the north.
Negative direction. I'm just standing by how over the cut line between Hyena Road and Gary cut line.
Ah, Brent is also hitting Buffalo's Hook cut line at this point. Oh, there seems to be a slight problem with making my Game Drive channel go quiet, which is why it's coming through in the open. That's okay, we'll get that sorted out relatively quickly. Of course, yesterday, we were searching in exactly that spot where Lex heard the leopard calling, which is most interesting because I'm pretty sure it was hiding out there for most of yesterday. From Aina, hello. We were looking for you. Oh, they're so fast. It's incredible. Somebody with a very full belly and a very rapid pace, racing off into the distance. That you can see how effortless that stride is with their sloping back. Creatures adapted in response to evolving alongside lions to be able to cover enormous distances with expending very little energy. And that hyena can maintain that speed for at least half an hour. It's not going to, obviously, because their clan territory is not that large. In this particular area, we're not desert-based or anything else of the sort. I know that's his tracks, but it might be quite nice to look at a hyena running track. Light's not quite right. I think that's going to be a little bit tricky, but can you see it there, Jandre, where he sprinted across the road? It's not going to come through very clearly. It's a nice idea, just to get the idea of distance between the strides. Still that sloping crosswalk. And then dashing off. So they don't take enormous strides in the same way a sprinting leopard or a lion might do. But nevertheless, covering enormous amounts of ground. Okay, we don't want to stay for too long. Otherwise, I would usually hop out and show you. But it's time to be heading on. Although that being said, perhaps we should find the easiest place to stay still. I mean, yesterday, Viam and myself didn't have to move because we had an African wildcat for most of the morning. Oh, there goes the hat again. Yank it back down. Although I suppose it'll provide you with some entertainment until we find an animal for you. While we carry on, I'm going to send you over to Brent and let's see what he's up to.
So while listening for leopard, we heard lion calling just down the road. So it sounds like it's right on our boundary. So we're just going to scoot across there, have a quick look. I'm going to guess on this ridge up ahead or maybe down towards the Buffalo's Hook waterhole.
Oh dear, it seems as though Brent has disappeared off your screen. That's okay, because we're essentially looking for the same thing. So whilst he looks for a slightly better signal position, we're going to continue on up Gallagher shortcut. I'm not sure if any of you were watching the Djuma Dam camera this morning, but you would have heard the elephants trumpeting away in response to something. And it sounded like a baby elephant, But it's incredible what kind of a vocal range an elephant actually has, particularly the little ones. And they're capable of producing squeals and screams that sound almost like human beings in distress. Can be a very scary sound if you don't know what you're listening to. But for those of you who were watching the Djuma Dam camera while you waited in eager anticipation for us to appear on your screens, that was the sound that you were hearing. That's very interesting. It's not the cat that he was looking for, but Brent has found, true to form, another one of the big cats.
So there we go. We've got the lions that were making the noise. I said to Dave, I think they sound about right here, and literally a lioness popped up. We've got 3 lionesses of the Nkahuma ladies. Excuse me. And it's the 3 big girls, not the young girl. Oh, look at that. Please just zoom in on her belly, the one that's coming through at the back. Yes, her. Let's have a look. Oh, they're going to roar. Oh, okay, they're on the move. They're playing behind us. Let's get down there. Chasing each other. There is a bit of a dip here. Hopefully we don't lose you. Look at that, look at that! Chasing each other. Full of the joy of the cold. They're steadily mobile. West. 3 Mafazengala, Buffelshoek cut line, heading west along the firebreak towards Buffelshoek West Road. Here we go, Nkahuma ladies. The lady at the back is the one that looked quite pregnant. We'll try to get another look at her now, but she's quite far behind. She's about to come up in front of us here. Dave? Now, these 2 are doing all the fun stuff, but we'll have a quick look. Here she comes. And you can see that belly. And she's probably going to walk right next to us so we can have a nice close look at it. Oh, there she is. Oh, she's going to come this side. There she is. She's passing centimeters from us. So I'm trying to look for suckle marks. I don't think she's given birth yet. Oh, no, actually, I think she has. It looks like there could be suckle marks there. We're going to have a closer look a little later. Dave, get ready. Stalking. I'm going to pounce on. Oh! And next one. Looked like it was showing intent. You can just see the alertness when they're playing. Okay, let's turn around. Yay, lions! First off the bat. So, often I do go on about this a bit. Oh, get ready, Dave. Oh, jumping on each other. That's the great thing about finding lions sort of just after first light. Even if they're not hunting, they often quite
Oopsie daisy, it seems as though Brent has lost signal once again, but I'm sure once he repositions and he gets to a nice static spot, then he will be sorted out for the rest of the morning. That being said, I didn't quite realize just how action-packed things were at Arathusa Dam. I'd heard reports, but I didn't realize exactly what was going on. So that's where we're on our way to now. I'm traveling as fast as I dare because I think that I might actually look back and Gendre will just be frozen in one position on the back there. Because if I think I have it bad, I've at least got sort of most of the half of my body is hidden underneath the vehicle, sheltered, whereas poor Gendre is sitting right at the back, exposed to the full force of the elements. I said that I was on my way to Arethusa. That is one of the properties on which we traverse. It's on our western side. I'm still quite far away from it. We'll have to put foot a little bit on the western side of Djuma. So probably not our hyena clan. Chances are it's the Elephant Plains hyena clan. So it might give us a chance to get to know some of the individuals a little bit better. Stay, Hat. It seems as though Brent's signal's back up, so while we race to Arethusa, let's go back to the lions.
So they're moving straight west down the northern boundary of Djuma. Now, we can sort of account for all 5 Nkahuma ladies now. We've got the 3 here, and then we've got the young one and another that I'm macing with Birmingham's that I know of. I'm not 100% sure whether she's given birth or not yet, the other lioness. We'll have to have a closer look when we get the chance. But they are hungry. Oh, I think we're on the stalk. I'm going to get ourselves into the... So, as I was just saying, Kyle, McFetters, there are 5 lionesses in the Nkahuma Pride. These 3, and then 2 that are off mating with Birmingham males. Here we go. Get ready, Dave. Get ready. Ah, she was spotted, but... Oh. She was stalking the other lioness, but she got spotted, and so the lioness is like, no, I'm out of here. You can see her just jogging off in the distance there. What a great way to start the day. So for anyone who's a bit new, the Nkahuma Pride are the main pride of lions that we see on our safaris, or the main group of females. We do occasionally see other prides of females, but I would say maybe 80% of our sightings are of these girls. Oh, they're jogging at a high speed. Bouncy bounce. Good morning, Kathy in Melbourne. Kathy's wondering when lions... Sorry, I need to catch up with them. They were jogging quite quickly there. When lions spray territory, do they each have the same odor or is it different? Now, each individual... Can you see them, Dave? I just saw them last. I saw was jogging down the hill. There we go. Oh, they've covered some ground. They're still jogging. Oh, they're moving this morning. Sorry, Kathy, I will be back to you in a second. I wonder if they've heard something that's keeping them moving, or they've been chased maybe possibly by another pride of females. So, Kathy, back to your question. So each individual lioness will have a unique scent that will be recognized by the other lions in the pride, and by lions from other prides, and they'll recognize that that lion is not in their pride. So the pride members will recognize each other's scents, and so will the coalition males that dominate over the female pride. So you can hear Wendy sounding a little bit sick It's not a big problem. Oh, they're on the run again. Get ready, they might jump on each other, Dave. I'll tell you when. It's very unusual. I haven't seen lions move like this unless they've been chased. And they've heard something that we didn't hear. But I mean, we're doing probably close on 15 kilometers an hour to keep up with them when they're jogging. So Safari Dean is wondering, will one female in a pride try and not get pregnant so they still have one strong hunter? Most definitely not, and pregnancy doesn't really hamper a lion's hunting ability at all. I mean, they are designed. Oh, there we go, on the jog again. I mean, it's quite the... I mean, I haven't seen lions move like this in an incredibly long time. Guys, we're about to go into another deep dip. So we may lose you for a second, but we will definitely stick with the lions. Lex.
Go ahead.
Lex, these animals are highly mobile. I mean, we're about to hit Gari cut line now.
Copy. I am keen to go in there. I just want to check and move the road.
Copy, thanks. I think we might meet you there at this speed.
Okay, copy.
So as I said, it's very unusual. Not unusual behavior, but it's definitely like they're trying to get away from something or so there might be new male lions that are coming to the east because they're coming from sort of Torchwood side, or they could be just trying to avoid another one of the female prides, the bigger female.
While Brent attempts to unwrap the mysteries of what's happening with the Nkahuma ladies, we've taken a shortcut towards Arathusa and we're racing down the road, increasing the wind chill factor, or at least decreasing our internal core body temperature by about 5 degrees. Oof. Now let's go and see if we can claim a spot at that hyena sighting. Not impossible that there's other male lions that have entered the scene. The Birmingham boys are not at their top form right now. They've lost one member of the coalition, and at least one of them has quite a serious limp, but I think there's actually 2 of them that are limping. One has got quite an uncomfortable looking skin disease. So they're not quite at the sort of the pretty untouched lions that they were when they first came to visit Djuma and start their their territory takeover. It's not entirely impossible that another coalition of males is coming in from Kruger. I'm just wondering whether those Nkuhumas aren't trying to find the rest of the pride. We know that there was a female around Tambuti Dam on Buffelshoek, which is the direction that they're moving in. Sorry. That was the wrong spot. I tried to find a good spot. Now my bones are rattling. And I'm just racing down here just to try and get us off the main road and away from these bumps. How are you doing back there, Jandre? Jandre is still on the back, but he's only really managing a weak thumbs up. I think it's hot water bottle in the jacket time out here in the bush, and quite possibly blanket over the knees. Oh dear, there goes the hat. Okay, we're nearly there, Jandre. We're nearly on Arathusa. off the main road with these corrugations, or as we call them, rumble bumps. Just from constant vehicle traffic up and down. And this is the main access route to multiple lodges throughout the reserve. Oh, there's the boundary. I'm going to be so glad when we do pop onto Arethusa and we can slow down a little bit. Of course, once we do head on to Arethusa, there's always the possibility that Shadow is going to emerge and come striding out. It's been a long time since I've had a chance to see her, so I'm really keen on trying to figure out exactly where she's gone. So while we do that, Brent's signal is back up and running, and he is still with those lions, so let's find out what's happening.
So we're with one lioness who carried on heading west, and now she's stopped. Oh, we can hear elephants behind her, breaking branches. The other two went north into Buffalo's Hook at that bottom of that little dip. And she's looking back forlornly. I'm hoping she tries to call them. Oh, she is a pretty, pretty girl. From the Franklins dispersing, I can hear where the other lions are behind me. But they're still quite deep in Buffalo's Hook. I'm hoping she doesn't go to join them. I was hoping she would call them out. But it does look like she is going to go north across our boundary. Unless the other two come back, other two. So, just trying to see where, if the others pop up behind us. She's looking straight behind us as well. Now, yeah, I'm not sure she's given birth yet. Let's have a quick look. Let's zoom in there on the belly. I mean, I'm not seeing, let me try to get a picture. Might be a bit easier to see. I think she's still pregnant. I'm not seeing any visible suckle marks. Or maybe... Nah. I think it's just a bit of dew on her belly. And unfortunately, she is heading into the north. Let's just go forward a bit, see if we can spot her. And she disappears. And there's still a good chance that they might come back. And you still see her, Dave?
I don't see her.
Oh, there she is. She's behind that thicket there. Might get a view from... Oh, she's disappearing. Let's try a little bit further back. Might be a better gap. Lex, there's a Gala crossing north at Gary Kaplan Junction.
We've made it into Arethusa alive and well and relatively intact. And we're heading across to those hyena. It seems as though Brent's signal is very patchy where those lions have decided to go, so that's why you keep hopping on the back with us. It's just one of those inevitable things of filming live safaris, is that things can and will go wrong every now and again in certain areas. It would be absolutely impossible for us. You can just imagine the technology involved in bringing you a live safari from the middle of a game reserve with all of its dips and rises and all of the challenges that that involves. You can imagine that our tech team works full time to keep things up and running. And they can bring you a live safari. I can't even keep my hat on properly. Ah, it was our gentleman warthog that we saw resting here a couple of days ago. But he's playing skittish. Oh, there he goes. We saw him sleeping in this termite mound, or going to bed in this termite mound, the last time I was here, really close to the entrance to that hole. And I'm just going to take this opportunity to quickly go on the Game Drive channel and ask whether or not I can go and join that hyena sighting. Morning stations in the west, are there any updates? Morning, if any station can copy me, I'd like to join that Misi lock. That's very sad. Oh, there we go, hello. Do you copy you? Copy that, thank you, I'm on my way. Yay, we can go and have a look at what's happening there. Copy that, thank you very much. So as I was saying, our tech team deals with a tremendous job. So they will be attempting to sort out Brent's problems with his vehicle, or at least with the signal from Wendy, and get him back up and running. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm too far away to be able to race back and join him at the Lions. Rusty, you're doing well, though. Your hyena tracks up and down. Now, for those of you who are relatively sensitive viewers, I just want to let you know, to at least to warn you, that the sighting that we're going to now, I think could be very sad for some of you. It could also be relatively graphic. Now, the reason I say that is many of you will have been familiar with the hippo that was wandering about, a very, very young baby hippo without its mom. And I suggested that it had either died or there was a good chance it was going to be killed very quickly. And I think that that is what we are on our way to see. If you are sensitive and you feel that that's going to upset you, just to let you know, I'll give you another warning before we show you anything related to that. But while we make our way there, Brent's signal has popped back up, yay! So you can go and watch the lions.
So we started our morning with 3 lioness jogging, and I think I now know the reason and what they were jogging from. So as we come out a bit, hello, Mr. Birmingham. So this is not the same Birmingham we saw yesterday with the young female, and this is still a mating pair, but it's the other mating pair. So there was a Birmingham and a young Nkomo female, and here is a Birmingham and an older Nkomo female. And what they're looking and listening at so intently is not good news for us. There's a herd of elephants moving towards us, and I'm really hoping they don't chase them into Buffalo's Hook. The rest of the lionesses have crossed into Buffalo's Hook, but we've still got these two who came jogging up the road behind us. I turned around to reverse, and all of a sudden, these were, oh, I think they might mate. No. Oh, look at the light on his face. Isn't that stunning? So I'm just listening. I think I can hear the lions roaring in the distance. Can you hear the branches breaking from the elephants? Oh, isn't that gorgeous? I hope you guys are getting some really great screenshots. All special. We often comment how wonderful the light is, but it's just that much more wonderful when you get one of Africa's big cats in this early morning light. I'm just going to see where he's off to now. Hopefully, they stay on Juma.
Oh dear, and Brent has disappeared once again, but we are almost at the hyena, and both Chandra and myself eagerly anticipating our arrival, because what it means is that we can sit still and we can sit in the sun. Hat. All right, let's see if we can't make our way across to the sighting. No, I can imagine that there we go. I imagine that the guests at Arathusa Lodge must have had a very interesting night last night, because hyenas around the kill are not all that quiet. I can just imagine that probably there was very little sleep had by some of those in the room closest, but nevertheless, what an exciting way to spend an evening. If you're coming to visit the African bush, being treated to one of the most extraordinary experiences. And the vocalizations of hyenas around a kill, they get very, very excited. There's lots of giggling, lots of cackling. And that's where you really get an idea of where the spotted hyena gets its nickname, the laughing hyena. Because they do sound like they are giggling away. And it's all part of a very complex interaction within their society. Who gets to eat first and who doesn't, and submissive chattering and dominant chattering from the various members of the group. Let's see what we have to find here. I will be very interested. I'm relatively certain that we're not going to recognize, as well as we know our hyenas of our clan. I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of new faces and spot patterns here. So get your screenshots all ready to go, and let us start building up our knowledge of the Elephant Plains clan. I know that we see them every now and again. Now let's get a real idea of who is who and what is what. Hello. Oh, hyena everywhere. Hello, little one. Let's just stop for 1 second there. Okay, screenshots, everybody. As you know, each spotted hyena has their own individual spot patterns. Oops, mind the stick there, little one. There's sub-adult. Some description. Now, I'm just checking out the scene, having a look at what we've got here. It doesn't look like there's much left of the carcass, but we shall go and investigate. So this is hyena number 1. I count 1, 2, there's the one behind the tree that you can't see from your angle. Then there's 3, 4, 5. And then 6. Looking very full-bellied. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, and an 11th. And apparently there were 14 here at the height of the hyena action. So let's go a little bit closer. I don't think there's terribly much left of the carcass, but again, a warning for sensitive viewers. It was a very unfortunate inevitability for this little hippo, and it does look like it's a hippo. Good morning, hyenas. Have you had a wonderful night? Oh, so many new faces to learn. Extraordinary scene here. Wow. How's that light, Jandre? Oh, how's that smell, Jandre? Wow. Yeah. And that's the baby hippo that was around here. And I'm surprised that there is as much of it left. And James Richard has said it's very sad, but probably in a way for the best after what we've seen. And I'm with you, James. It is incredibly sad. We'll never know what happened to that calf's mom, but it was just far too young to survive and to take care of itself without her. It's a very sad situation. Nevertheless, the hyena clan have eaten well tonight, and it does give us an opportunity to... Oh, there we go. There's that deep growl sound that they make. That's a sound you won't have heard many times. Let's see if she'll do it again. Judging from that belly, this is a high-ranking individual. Well, that's a guess, but if you compare her to any of the other hyenas here, she looks as though she has had the most to eat. And what does that tell us? In a hyena hierarchy, the most dominant females will get to eat first and eat the most, and only once they have eaten their fill and the other higher-ranking females have eaten their fill will the others be allowed to join in. You hear that low, almost vibrating call. Just trying to work out what's scared them. I'm actually going to be silent because we're going to get some nice vocalizations. So what's happening here is the hyena on the left has been asserting her dominance. The hyena on the right was making the chattering, giggling sounds. That was an indication of submission. And basically saying, please don't attack me for eating. Obviously, I'm not going to go so far as to completely guess at rank, but a dramatic scene has played itself out last night in the open clearings at the Arathusa Dam. And James Richards is right. It's very sad, and I must say we're going to be seeing more and more scenes of this nature as the drought continues. And the hyena clans and the lions and our leopards, all of our predators actually, are going to be the ones who flourish over the next few months. Oh, don't you make such an attractive picture? Now, as I said, we're going to get more and more scenes of this nature starting to occur. Marjorie, you were wondering, what are the reasons? Ooh, what are the reasons behind why this little hippo would have been alone? Sorry, guys, I do need to have the Game Drive channel on so I can listen to what's happening. There's a couple of reasons. I don't think he was sick. There's a chance that Mom became weakened because she had to go through this pregnancy during the time of the drought. And it's not sort of lack of water that's been getting the hippos, it's a lack of food. And they've hardly had any grass. There was a stage, remember there was that stage before the rains that happened around March, where everything was just so bleak and dry. And there was hardly anything for them to eat. So my conjecture is that the female carried her pregnancy to full term, but with minimal nutrition. Then she still had to lactate to keep her baby well fed. And just by the way, I know you all are taking screenshots that we can use later for identifying these individuals. And I suspect that she probably just wasn't strong enough. There wasn't enough food. She'd carried a pregnancy to full term and had a baby and then still had to feed it and herself on very minimal grass cover, and she just couldn't do it. That would be my guess. It could also have been a fight over space that she might have been injured in as well. And as hippo are quite happy to live together when times are good, but when times become more stressful, they struggle a little bit in terms of sharing the water that they're in. Here we go, we've got some fantastic body language. Here's our high-ranking female going back in. We could get some really nice vocalizations. You can always send through the screenshots that you're taking to the Facebook page that has been very kindly set up for the various hyenas of this area. And we've filled it with details about our clan that we see regularly on Djuma. But now we have a chance to start building up a picture of the rest of them. And what incredible vocalizations you must have been listening to last night on the Arathusa Dam camera. Must have been absolutely extraordinary. I'm quite nervous. I'm not quite sure what's got them so on edge. There she is again, muttering that very dominant. It's almost like a. It's going to sound so ridiculous, but it almost sounds like a sci-fi spaceship. That deep vibration sound that she produces. In theory, it's not actually technically described scientifically as a growl. Hyenas scientifically do not growl as leopards or lions or dogs do. But it is basically a growl. I mean, it serves a very similar purpose and it sounds very similar. Charlotte, you were wondering how this little baby died and whether or not it was from natural causes or whether the hyena killed it. And the answer is they must have killed it. It was probably weakened from the fact that it's been subsisting on solid food and very, very sort of bad quality solid food for a long time, and it's far too young to have been fully weaned. If it had been a natural situation, if its mother was still alive, it would still have been suckling at the stage at which it was at. No, it was weakened, and with a hyena clan of 14 strong, and probably more, but at least 14 hyenas that tackled it last night, you can guarantee that they were responsible for its death. And the little hippo actually didn't really stand a chance. Although it might have been slightly heavier than one hyena, it was absolutely no match for this number of them. Incredible. At the moment, they have the carcass all to themselves, but one of the big reasons why they'll be so nervous is that they are casting about. There's always the chance that a lion pride is going to want to come and steal their kill. As we know, lions are some of the biggest scavengers out here, in size and in terms of how much they are willing to scavenge. Then there's also the chance that vultures are going to discover this scene relatively soon. That as Magical is picked up, it's a bit too cold for the birds of prey to be on the wing just yet. And you want to know, Magical, how long it will be until it's hot enough that the birds of prey will discover this. There's a good chance that the battaliers and the tawny eagles and so on are already up in the air and flying, just because they don't have to rely on the hot air currents as much as a vulture does. But it'll probably only be at around 8 or 9 this morning that we start to see them soaring through. And the sun is still warm, but the morning started off incredibly chilly. So chances are that it will only be a little bit later, and then we could actually be treated to the most incredible scenes. Some of you will have seen pictures of huge groups of vultures standing off against hyenas, and hyenas trying to chase them away. It's probably one of the most incredible things that you can witness out here, is that interaction between scavengers on the wing and scavengers on the ground. I've seen vultures chase cheetah away before, but a hyena is much less easily bullied. Now we started off... Oh, let's just listen to this. Do you see how they all waited for that female to feed before they all piled on? I think it's safe to say that she holds a high rank in this hyena clan. The rest of them had to wait their turn, tails up in a lot of cases in excitement. There we go. Another large female has taken control. She's the one again making those vibrating, growling sounds. You can learn so much about a hyena clan from their interactions around a carcass like this. And what we will do at some stage is reposition and go around to the other side. They seem to be really tucking in now. You can see some individuals much smaller than others struggling to push their way into the feeding frenzy. And here comes another large female, restoring order. Tail immediately tucked between an individual's legs, so told off by somebody. Hard to keep track with them all crisscrossing around each other. I hope you're all attempting screenshots and to keep track of who is who. Natasha has said these must be the leaders of the clan. They've all got very perfect ears. You're right, Natasha. Absolutely. I think once we get a bit closer, some of the older females will find some nicks and cuts and tears, but I do entirely see what you mean. They do have relatively intact ears compared to, say, Madam or Corky, all of whom have rips and tears. Now, these hyenas could be responsible, possibly, it's conjecture, of course, but they could be responsible for some of the injuries that we've seen on Corky and Madam and Pretty. They were clearly involved in some kind of skirmish. When I last saw them, they had cuts and injuries all across their rear ends and along their backs. Very typical sort of fighting style of a hyena. That's very interesting. That big female is one little bit to the right, is now adopting quite a submissive to the other individual. So whilst she might have a high rank, morning, she might have a high ritual here. And of course, it isn't just dependent on size in hyena clans. There's attitude, there's inherited status. She's still growling her way through. This is... Again, have a look at that. There was a smaller hyena that put the other in its place. Good morning. Say good morning to some of the other guests coming to join us. We had a chance to see there just how much subcutaneous fat a hippo does have. Kathy from Melbourne, you were wondering how much of a hippo carcass is flesh versus the fat layer. And in an adult hippo, there'd be an easily 4-inch thick layer of subcutaneous fat there. Whereas with a young baby, it's not as much. The interesting thing about the flesh of a hippo and the fat within a hippo is that it's what's almost described as marbled. So there's lots and lots of layers of fat within the meat. It's a mixture of the two, in other words. So it's not just the sort of the subcutaneous layer that sits underneath the skin, it's also within the muscle layers itself. And it's one of the ways in which a hippo is adapted to insulate its body. And it does mean that essentially makes hippo meat one of the most nutritious for the predators and the scavengers out here. It just so happens that it's generally sort of defended by several sets of incredibly sharp ivory tusks and a 2-ton animal. It's not often that a hippo is tackled until we find ourselves in times of drought such as these. Things have started to settle And whilst Jandre and myself are relatively warm, we're also being bombarded by the smell of this hippo. I'm quite surprised at how smelly it is, to be honest. It smells as though it's been rotting for a while. Jen B, the wind is blowing straight towards us, towards Jandre and myself. We found a lovely position for the light, but we didn't perhaps choose the best position for the wind. You were wondering if that might be potentially going to ruin the Arathusa breakfast spread, with the smell gently wafting over the guests as they eat their breakfast after game drive. It's a possibility. You're so jumpy. Hyenas? So that's a distinct possibility, Jen B. It could be that smell does waft over. I said I'm surprised, and I really am surprised at how smelly this carcass is. If they killed this last night, it's been so cold that it shouldn't quite smell as rotten as it does. It must be the stomach contents that are smelling so unpleasant, or maybe just such a large group of hyena. And hyenas individually are relatively smelly, maybe as a group. They're sending their scent wafting over. But no, it is the carcass. I don't quite understand. I don't know whether any of you saw the hyenas actively kill this baby hippo, or if it died of natural causes and was actually rotting in the dam. Is that a possibility? I hadn't heard anything about it from the other guides. It just smells very strong for a hippo that was killed last night. Perhaps they've been hiding it, or it collapsed somewhere hidden and they've only just found it. And my initial thoughts was that they had killed it themselves. I think on the subject of the smell, let's change our angle slightly. Oh, shame. Thank you, Jody, for letting me know. That's what I initially suspected. I'm just quite surprised by how smelly the carcass is. But Jody in New Mexico said the hyenas did kill this hippo, and it took quite a long time. And so it took a couple of hours before they managed to kill it. It was very, very sad, very unfortunate. Shame. But I do feel as though it was relatively inevitable. It's just very sad to witness. While we reposition, I'm going to send you back to Brent to find out how his morning is going.
So, what an exciting morning. Lions and hyenas, the two dominant predators of the Sabi Sands. And it seems like that poor hippo calf met an unfortunate end at the hands of the hyenas. And possibly it could have died of natural causes and the hyenas found it afterwards. So what Dave and I are doing now is going in search of whatever else we can find. Unfortunately, the lions have crossed into Buffel's Hook. So hopefully I've asked Lex to keep me updated in case they head south. They are moving quite a bit, so it is possible that they might pop back across the northern boundary. So there was that leopard calling, so we're just doing a wider loop, seeing if we can see any tracks. And we're going to go head down towards the area around the lodges where Lex last had the audio of that leopard. And it is a glorious morning. It is still very chilly. I took my gloves off for half a minute and I thought I was being very clever, and they quickly came back on. So I think the lions moved north because of that big breeding herd of elephants that was there. Unfortunately, we had very bad signal in that area, so we had to move out. And maybe the elephants move up to the top of the crest later. So we're going to head in that general direction where the leopard was last heard and there are elephants around. Hopefully we can find something fascinating. But we saw those Nkuhuma lionesses jump speed down the cut line, and we were trying to figure out why. So there's always a possibility another pride of females, new males. It wasn't, they were just running from the mating pair. Now obviously it could be a false estrus and that female's not that keen on mating and she's trying to catch up with the rest of the pride. And Mr. Birmingham is just coming on and on after them. And sometimes they will run away from their the dominant coalition, especially when he's in the mood or when he's feeling amorous and they're not. So that could possibly be, well actually I'm quite certain that's the reason for that behavior that we saw this morning. Now there still is another mating pair around, and I've seen tracks of a single female near the eastern boundary, but there are just so many lion tracks around and it's quite difficult to determine exactly what's going on there. Oh, sorry, I pushed the wrong button. Okay. So I was hoping possibly there were some lions around here just from the tracks, but it doesn't look like it. So let's go see if we can find not the king, but the prince of predators.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'll check something goes down south, so I'll check and
So if it was a male leopard calling this morning, it's very likely it could be from the area Tingana, and which would mean this is one of his favorite routes. Oh, hello little one, don't run. Oh, it's a pair of them. Oh, and they're off at high speed. With grey dikers, you just saw a flash of it disappear. There we go. They were sitting so still and quiet next to the road, but often what happens with those little antelopes, as soon as you stop and they realize they've been spotted, they disappear. Now, a very interesting story about duiker that comes from a bit further north of us. And it's from the Tswana tribe, which mostly live in Botswana and northern parts of South Africa. The grey duiker is the totem animal of the tribe. Now, it became the totem animal when Paramount Chief Kama was on the run from a marauding horde of Indabele, or an Indabele impi. An impi is sort of like a regiment, and they were hunting down the chief to kill him. And the area in Botswana where they used to live, these wide open grasslands, where there's an acacia called Acacia hebeclava that forms almost like an igloo-shaped bush. And after running for quite a few kilometers, Paramount Chief Kama could not run anymore. So he crawled into one of these Acacia hebeclava thickets, and sitting there looking at him was a little grey duiker. Now, the Ndebele, realizing that there's not many places to hide out there on the open plains, basically started poking spears into every one of these hebeclava thickets, and eventually they got to the thicket where Paramount Chief Kama was hiding. The duiker, still lying mere meters away from him, burst out and ran away from the Ndebele warriors. And the Ndebele said to themselves, well, he can't be hiding in there because the puti, or the little duiker, would have run if he had gone in there. So they moved on, and Chief Kama survived. And his bloodline continued through into independence, and the first president of the independent Botswana, after it stopped being a Botswanan protectorate, was Sir Seretse Khama, and the current president is his son, Ian Khama. So here we go. Now, the Khama line lives and is still, even after independence and democratic elections, in control of Botswana. Morning, Michael Evans. Michael would like to know, how many years has the Nkahuma Pride been on Djuma for? Michael, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I know a lot of our viewers will know. But if I remember correctly, guys, you've got to make sure I'm not telling little fibs here. But I think they were first seen in Buffelshoek under a Nkahuma tree, which is a brown ivory, in 2008, 7, 8. I know some of our experts out there will definitely know the answer, so please let me know, and you can do that by dropping me an email on questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So I'm about to go through a little dip. Hopefully the signal holds.
Unfortunately, as you can see, we have had to leave that particular sighting. There are lots and lots of people who are very keen on having a chance to see that. It's not something that you get to see every day. Let's just quickly say good morning to Peter. How's it, Peter? How are you, man?
Jamie?
Hi.
Like in you.
Good, thanks. How's the hypothermia? Yeah? It's chilly? Yeah.
Where you going?
I'm going to head off to Cheetah Plains now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll make it.
I don't think we're going to make it, but we're going to give it a jolly good try.
You got a nice vehicle, so.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see.
Nice. Oh well, enjoy.
Are you heading to those Misi?
Eventually I will. Been trying to follow up on the Birminghams this morning. They were somewhere on our nets, but couldn't find anything there. Tracks went south into Malamala.
Ah, well, maybe. You never know. Well, we'll go check the boundary. Cool.
Enjoy.
Cheers,
Bye.
guys. Have a good morning. Oh, no. Jandre, why didn't you tell me my hat looked so silly? What his guests must think. Oh, well. Unavoidable, and it's too cold at the moment to take it off. Especially since we're trying to get to Cheetah Plains. They have reported, and I think that Brent mentioned it, the fact that there are cheetah in that area, but they are crossing towards Mala Mala. And of course we find ourselves pretty much as far west as we can go, and Cheetah Plains is pretty much as far east as we can go. I'm going to try and get there. We're going to keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully they decide to lie down and not go wandering off anywhere. But if not, we'll just enjoy a nice and sedate drive in that general direction. And I'll just keep listening to the Game Drive channel to hear what the updates are. And it sounded like, from what Peter said, that the Birmingham boys were also around that region. So Annette's is just behind on the other side of Cheetah Plains, just sort of to the southwest of that corner. And then they headed towards Mala Mala, which, as you know, is the southern boundary of Cheetah Plains, which is within our Traverse area, meets up with Mala Mala. Now, they could also be around there as well. It seems as though every time I try to go to Cheetah Plains, my efforts become scuppered in some way, whether through signal or through other means. But that hyena sighting was absolutely incredible. I said it was sort of a very unusual thing for us to have seen. And it is. We've not had that many experiences where we've been able to watch our hyena clan on Djuma gather together in those sorts of numbers around a kill. I'm sure it has happened in the past. I personally haven't seen it. And that's only the second time I've seen that Elephant Plains clan gathered around. Funnily enough, the last time I saw it was when I went to go and visit some friends at a neighboring lodge, and they took us out on a game drive, and we came across another dead hippo, but that was at the absolute height of the drought, and that was when I first encountered the Elephant Plains hyena clan. There's said to be somewhere in the region of 30 or more hyenas in that particular group. We only got to see about half of them. Nevertheless, I hope you're all sending through your screenshots so that we can, as I said, build up a little bit of a background knowledge to the hyena clan that neighbors and borders on ours. And we know, we suspect pretty much exactly where that boundary falls, which is the no man's land between Triple M, so that main road we were on earlier, and just a little bit into Arethusa. And that entire section is marked by latrines, hyena latrines, all the way along it, by different hyenas, and lots of old dung, lots of new dung as well, or scat, the correct terminology. We know where the boundary falls, but of course, as with every territorial animal, the territorial boundaries are relatively fluid. Hyenas piling in. Smiles for Rafi, you were wondering whether that would be females only, or whether or not any of the males would join in to that particular group. And as a male that behaved submissively, particularly now that they've been feeding throughout the night, so they've sort of, the most aggressive and the most dominant individuals in that clan have eaten their fill. So there's a possibility that a male, particularly a high-ranking clan male, like the son of a matriarch or the son of one of the highest-ranking females, might be able to sneak in a few snacks. But any sort of the lowest-ranking hyenas will just have to sit and wait patiently. And it's a very, very strictly enforced hierarchy. They are, no matter how hungry they are not going to make the mistake of attempting to move into that carcass and feed until they absolutely know that it's their turn. And there have been several experiments done. There was I don't know if any of you have ever watched the show on set, or the test that they did with the animals that Kevin Richardson has rescued close to Johannesburg. But essentially what he did was he taught the lowest ranking hyena how to solve a puzzle that would get that hyena meat. And it was to do with a whole load of different boxes, and that particular hyena learnt and knew how to get that meat out of that box. What he then did was he put the meat in the box and released the rest of the clan in with that very low ranking male, and they immediately went into sort of dominant mode, tails up curled, and went racing around sniffing all of the different boxes. And this very submissive male just went and sat in the corner, didn't go for the meat, didn't show any sign that he knew what was going on. He just stayed out of that clan's way until they got bored and moved right off. Whoop. And even then, he stayed for a long time in the corner. He didn't touch the food, he didn't solve the puzzle. He waited until he knew it was absolutely safe before he moved in. And obviously, despite their voracious appetites and that very powerful instinct to eat, clearly for a low-ranking male and probably for the lowest-ranking female, it's just not worth risking the injuries, because we've seen what the lengths that a hyena will go to in order to enforce that hierarchy, and it's not gentle. It is not gentle taps on the wrist kind of thing. It is serious discipline. But it's all part of the way in which a hyena clan functions, and it keeps it together as a very cohesive whole where everybody knows their role and knows their place. And nature's darling, yes, that's exactly. Oh, this is so nice. Should we stop here, Jandre? You just bask. Jandre hasn't moved. I'm not sure Jandre can move anymore. Oh, this is so nice. I feel like some kind of reptile or a dwarf mongoose. I just want to stay here and not move. But unfortunately, you probably have to, and I also probably have to steer. Now, nature's darling, you were wondering about. You wanted me to, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, all of the hyenas will help with the kill. Not all of them will get to eat it. Absolutely. They'll probably get to eat it. They'll probably only get to eat the scraps. Now, nature's darling, I'm not sure if you've ever witnessed a lion pride moving with a group of males. What will happen is the females will go, they will kill something like an impala, say. I've seen several times, male will walk in, pick the entire carcass up, the entire kill up, and take it away. And the females don't even bother to stop. They just keep moving. They don't even bother to try and eat their food. Unfortunately, it is a matter of dog eats dog kind of deal out here, or at least survival of the fittest. And lions socializing and feeding is no different. Hello, warthog. Impressive set of tusks on this individual. We tried to get a warthog on screen earlier and we didn't manage it, so I'm glad we've got one now for you. And actually looking quite attractive in the morning light. And quite pretty. Everybody always talks about how ugly warthogs are. I don't think they're that ugly. Especially not with this golden light shining on them. Just to let you know that Brent has returned to the camp in order to get some stuff sorted out so that the tech team can hands-on combat or hand-to-fist combat the gremlins that have attacked Wendy this morning. So if you're wondering where Brent has disappeared to, that is where he was gone. We will not be going to Cheetah Plains this morning, just because we would disappear off your screens completely if we did. So we're going to stick around here and see what other wonders we can find. One thing I do want to do is just find out the last position of those lions from Brent. Just while we watch this warthog snuffling about, looking for roots and tubers. Brent for Jamie. Sorry guys, I do just have to do this for a second. Just want to try and get hold of him so that I can take you to the lions. What was the last position of those Ngala? Copy that, thank you. And here the woodpecker tapping away, and we've got this really stunning view of the warthog, sideburns included, as it snuffles around to get to the roots and the shoots. The Lion King gives you a sort of a slightly misleading, and by slightly misleading I mean incredibly misleading idea, that warthog eat insects. And whilst that might be the case, they might occasionally snuffle up a grasshopper by mistake, their main diet consists of grass, roots, tubers, anything that they can dig up. And as part of the pig family, they have relatively, robust stomachs, which means that they could eat certain tubers and roots, some that look like onions and tomatoes, maybe even poison apple. That would be something that could either make a human being very ill or quite possibly kill them. It's very important, if you ever find yourself in a survival situation out here, do not, absolutely do not eat anything that looks like either an onion, a cucumber, or a potato without absolutely knowing. Oh, by the way, what I mean by that, sorry, I don't mean don't eat potatoes, cucumbers, or onions. I just realized how that sounded. I meant if you find yourself in a survival situation and you go digging through the soil, don't eat what you see warthogs eating, because they have a very, very different digestive system to ours, and they're capable of processing very different chemicals and toxins in the way that we are. Now, this warthog is currently snuffling around what he's looking for at the moment. Because there's very, very little grass growth left, and I mean, Genre can show you sort of what the ground looks like that they're snuffling around on. Just have a look at that. Now, they've got to subsist on that food, and it's only going to get worse. But luckily for them, most of the grass species in this area are perennial grasses, which means that they have all kinds of root systems linking them together underneath the soil, which act as storage systems, both for water and for nutrients. And that's why the warthogs are down on their elbows like that. They're trying to get to any kind of shoots close to soil level, but they'll also use their noses to snuffle out to get to the root systems of the grass. And those root systems don't extend terribly deeply down, so they don't have far to dig. That's what they're after at the moment. But warthog are probably one of the most vulnerable animals to the drought. So we spoke about the poor hippo that we saw earlier with the hyena. And I mentioned that there's probably going to be a scene that repeats itself over the next few months. The same could be said for the warthog. They are relatively sensitive creatures, particularly sensitive to sudden changes in temperature, but also to the fact that their diet is so specialized in terms of herbs. And you never see a warthog wandering about munching on the leaves of trees. They're ground foragers. That is what they're adapted for. What on earth is moving at the back there? Is that another warthog? Yes. Must be, yes. Oh, yep. That's another warthog. And it's a big male. It's amazing how much more skittish the larger males are when it comes to warthog. It always seems to be the females that habituate faster than the males do to the presence of vehicles. Now, when I first started working here, a warthog sighting like this was pretty much a rarity. All of the warthogs here used to see our vehicles coming, and all you'd see was a bottom disappearing into the dust. Now we get to sit and spend a bit of time with them and watch them feeding. And with this incredible camera, you get an idea of just how furry a warthog actually is. And how tawny that fur, what a tawny color that fur takes on. There's our big pig. Hello, handsome fella. See the clear difference in terms of size. Oh, that's interesting because that's another male, but it's a young male. Interesting. Very interesting. So that's a young male on the left, not a female, which I first thought it might be. Now, if I were him, I wouldn't go picking a fight with a boar of that size. I mean, that warthog is absolutely enormous. And he's not young. He's a warthog boar in his prime. Look at those protrusions on his face. Those warts that give warthogs their names. They've extended far out past his face. They're actually not warts. They're projections of sort of gristle and cartilage. And the reason that the males, you know what? I give up. The reasons that they are so pronounced in males and that they actually have an extra set is a warthog fight, a serious warthog fight between two males is quite a scary thing. And they really seriously will go for each other, and they've got those razor-sharp bottom tusks. Now, those warts actually act as protection for the eyes and the sort of the sensitive parts of the face. I'm going to go back a bit because he's quite an extraordinary specimen, that particular bull. Now, we've just come out of warthog rutting season. And as we sidle backwards, oh, he's gone again. He's so skittish, he's so scared. And hopefully we'll have a chance to get to see him once again. Come on, boy. Well, we've still got the other two with us. Now, Lucy Lou Who, I hope I got that right. You want to know if a warthog is as dangerous and aggressive as a wild boar. The answer is no, generally not. However, they're not to be underestimated. So a warthog is not a naturally aggressive animal. They will run away. They are not known generally to seek out and attack humans in the same way that wild boars are known to do. Wild boars are known to charge if disturbed. Not that they actively seek out people, but they do respond aggressively to the presence of people. Warthog do not do that. That being said, the one thing that makes warthog very dangerous is, there's a couple of reasons, but the main one is that they get used to people very quickly. And because of their diet, they like to spend time around the lawns of lodges and gardens that are obviously watered, and therefore the food is of better quality. And they get used to people quickly. I know 2 people who are undergoing extensive physiotherapy due to accidentally cornering a warthog in a garden or around a building, and that warthog's gone straight through their legs and out the other side and disappeared off into the wild. So whilst they're not aggressive, they are incredibly powerful animals. They're stocky, they're heavy, and those razor-sharp bottom tushes can cause serious damage. A friend of mine has severe scars on the back of her legs, and as I said, another friend has been in physiotherapy for a good couple of years to repair the muscle and the tendon damage, again to the legs. So it does happen. One of my biggest fears with Lexi, my Weimaraner, when she was a puppy, she no longer does it. Obviously, she's grown out of it, and we've taught her differently. But she had a very, very strong, not prey drive, but play drive. And all she wanted to do was play with the warthog. And it was something that absolutely terrified me in the beginning, because she was about the same height, but certainly not the same weight as an adult warthog. And it's not unheard of for them to kill or maim dogs either. So we put in a lot of time and effort teaching her not to play, that warthogs are not her friend and not to play with them. Now, we do have another pig species out in the bush, and that is the bush pig. The bush pig is a little bit more like the wild boar. I have yet to see one here, but you know, we're on a roll. Honey badgers, wildcats, you never know, we might just see one. The bush pig is the nocturnal pig species. They are much larger than the warthog and much more aggressive. They share more similarities with the wild boar. I've encountered them occasionally on foot as they explode out of their burrows. They also sleep in burrows, just as warthogs do. And I can speak from experience when I say that's quite a terrifying experience. Now, as our warthog wanders along on his knuckles, Rachel, you were wondering if that actually hurts them, if it gets uncomfortable. And certainly for us, it would be terribly uncomfortable. You know, none of us really, as adults, as a child, it doesn't bother you in the slightest. You don't even realize you're wandering about on your knees. But we're much tougher when we're children. Now, the thought of wandering about on well, it's actually his knuckles, to be honest, and I'll go into more detail on that in a moment. But the answer is, Rachel, no. They have a calloused patch around that spot, and they are physically very well adapted to walking about in that body posture. It just puts their head a little bit lower to the ground, means they don't have to strain their necks. And at that angle, what it means is that instead of having to angle their faces straight down to snuffle about, they can put it at a slight, sort of almost 45-degree angle to the ground, if you can see what I mean. And what that means is that they decrease the blind spot in front of them so that they can feed like this, but at the same time look for predators. You see what I mean? If his face were angled totally downwards, the warthog wouldn't have the same range or field of vision that it has at this angle. Now there, as the warthog stands up, you can even see the bald, slightly calloused patches around the knuckles. And I do mean knuckles, because his elbow, or her elbow, is actually much further up the leg. Now, we are what's known as plantigrade foot structure and hand structure. We've got pretty much flat in the way that we walk from our toes to our heels. Just please imagine this is my foot. I don't think I can contort myself to put my foot on the dashboard. But you sort of get the idea. That's how we walk. Now, then you get the digitigrade foot posture, which is the leopards and the lions and the cheetah and anything with paws, where it's the metatarsals and the metacarpals are extended slightly, and then their hock joint is actually the equivalent of their wrist or their ankles. The same goes for warthog, but even more so. So the unguligrade foot structure, in other words, the hoofed ungulates, antelope, deer, warthog, buffalo, all of them, are mainly adapted. Just those two halves of the hoof are just two fingers. There's basically the equivalent of two fingers. So their phalanges extend up, right up to the point that this is the actual knuckle that they're walking on like this. I'm sorry, I'm contorting myself into all kinds of strange positions. But without a diagram, you sort of roughly get the idea of how their bone structure works. And the same goes for any of them. Warthogs and buffalo, the nice thing about that is you can see with the evolutionary history, you can actually see two dew claws at the back. They're called dew claws. They're not dew claws. They're residual toes at the back. And you'll see it. You also see it in a warthog's track and a buffalo's track in very deep mud. Got the two normal hoof prints, the normal halves of the hoof, and then two little spikes at the back. Let's see if we can see it. It's going to be a little bit tricky. It's much clearer on the front foot than the back. Unfortunately, our warthog's gone back onto its knuckles again. There, you can actually. There was a brief moment there where you could see it. Yeah, look carefully on the front foot. As it lifts up its foot, you can see those two little spikes. There you go. The two little spikes at the back on the front foot. And that tells you a little bit about the evolutionary history. I spoke about the potential dangers of a warthog. Kim, you were wondering what animal might be brave enough to face those razor-sharp tusks and eat a warthog. Lions and leopards are generally the main predators of warthog. Even lions often think twice because in terms of meal size versus effort in catching them, it's kind of not really worth their time, particularly when they have a pride with them, so they might as well tackle a buffalo as opposed to a warthog. Leopards, a big male warthog is close to the weight of an adult male leopard. And an adult male leopard will absolutely think twice before tackling one, but they still do, and they still can specialize in hunting warthog. Tingana, the dominant male leopard of this area, is particularly skilled at catching warthog. Baby warthog, on the other hand, are fair game to pretty much anything, as long as the animal's brave enough to face the mother as well. Baby warthog is about this big, no tusks. Shown his expertise at climbing into warthog burrows and pulling babies out. Just bear with me one moment, please, before we leave our warthog. I just want to get hold of Brent. He is calling me. Station calling Jamie. Go ahead. Brent, I'm on Gurry Main at the moment. I'm probably going to make my way north up Zoe's. Copy. All right, seems as though Brent might be out and running in a moment. In the meantime, we have a question about whether or not a warthog tastes like pig. And the answer is no, it does not. And Justin, you were wondering about that. I have to confess, I have only ever tried warthog once, and it was not, I wasn't really enjoying it. And as it was, I was very happy when the caracal jumped onto my plate and stole it away. Now, there is a history behind that story. It happened to be a rescued caracal, a rehabilitated caracal. We spoke about it yesterday. But she jumped up onto the table, took the warthog off my plate and wandered off. And funnily enough, I didn't see fit to challenge her to that particular meal. I sort of got up to move towards her and she growled at me. And I thought twice and sat back down. So that's been my one and only experience with warthog. I've never been a fan, although apparently it is delicious and I've just had it cooked badly. You never know. But it certainly doesn't taste like pork. It's much more gamey, more venison-like, and much tougher than pig. Oh, off they go. I think they took offense to me talking about eating them. Justin, as our male slowly gets brave enough to walk back out, you were wondering whether or not our drives might help towards habituating the warthog. And you said that it might be that the lodge's the large vehicles probably wouldn't stop for terribly long next to a warthog sighting. It depends. Yes, I think that in general, we spend far more time with the other animals. We don't necessarily focus as much on the big 5 sightings or the big 7 sightings, including cheetah and wild dog. So yes, I do think that we help with the habituation. But if you're a guide, and I mean, I have worked at lodges before, if you're a guide and you've got guests that are interested in this kind of thing, then it's such a pleasure to actually spend time with them. It's very much dictated by the guests on the back of the vehicle and by the guide themselves, because you can make a warthog sighting very exciting if you choose to. All right, well, speaking of exciting things, Brent's back up and running. Let's get an update from him.
Hi, hopefully the tech department have it. It's in the grand. So I was heading this general direction anyway, because I really want to see if I can find any tracks of that leopard that was calling early this morning, and all those elephants screaming. And it was in this area, so it could definitely. Yeah, I just want to check very carefully for tracks. And also moving slowly helps with warming the bones. So this is a big animal path here that leopards often use. Now this is pure speculation, but there was so much elephant screaming in such a concentrated area. I have to wonder, does that leopard have a kill down here somewhere and it really upset the ellies? So just an update on the lions. They have gone flat inside Buffelshoek, about 400 meters to the north of our boundary. Not only is this a good spot for leopards, but it's a good spot for birds. And now that it's getting a bit warmer, we might start seeing a few more birds. And the nice thing is they tend to sit on the edge and bask in the sun to try warm up after the cold night. Morning, Joey. Joey is in Australia, and Joey is wondering how often are egrets seen on Djuma and which is the most common. Well, we do.
In 3, 2. I'm sorry, you caught me in mid-tea sip. Well, it seems as though Brent is back up and running in the most successful of ways. Sorry. We shall carry on and see if things don't sort them out on his side. In the meantime, we've come across to the southern boundary because, as you know, that is where the Queen of Djuma, Karula, likes to hang out. Now, Herbert was tracking her yesterday, or at least as far as we know, he was tracking a female leopard. And she was around Zoe's road, but he didn't see any sign of cub tracks. And there's a chance that she might have been hunting in that area, and she's now come back to the last position that we know of that she had her cubs in to try and fetch them. That's what I'm hoping for, of course. Whether or not that is the case is another story. Unfortunately, it's a little bit late in the morning, so a lot of vehicles have driven up and down. Apparently, Brent had started answering poor Joey's question before he disappeared somewhat dramatically from your screens once again, and poor Joey never got the answer to his question. You were asking about egrets and how often we see them and which ones we see. It's actually been quite a while since I've seen an egret on Djuma. They are around. There's quite a few of them on Chitwa, actually. I've seen them a couple of times when I've gone there for guides meetings. So Joey, you probably, and I just wish I had my book with me so that I could show you pictures, because egrets are so cool. You've got the different species, and I'm sure that Joey knows this. You've got the different, sorry, leopard tracks. Oh, no. Yes, leopard tracks. Female leopard tracks. Well, this is what I was looking for, I guess. I'm going to pull over so you can see. And these are not that old because they have not been obliterated. Poor Joey. You will get your egret question answered, I promise, at some point. Let's just not get too distracted. Actually, let's get distracted. This is distracting. We've got the female leopard tracks that are just running along the side of the road here. Hello, Karula. Where did you disappear to? Now, I am just about to hop out of the vehicle to show you the tracks and to chat a little bit more about that. Just needed a bit of time to think about where she might be going. All right, so Karula is the queen of Djuma. Karula is the dominant female leopard in this area. Now, she's got two wonderful little cubs the last time. Secreted and safe to a property to the south of us. We're going to go and have a look at these tracks very quickly. I don't want to delay for too long here. But what we're looking at is her front track over here. Slightly rounder, a little bit clearer, and then the more elongated back track here. At the back, the three lobes, not terribly clear, but the three lobes, very indicative of a big cat. This sort of size, it's either Karula, Shadow, Tundi. It's one of the female leopards in this territory or in this area. Most likely Karula. She's been walking this road for the last few months on a pretty much weekly basis, if not twice a week. A male leopard's tracks would be about double this size, so it's not one of our male leopards. All right, let us go and see if we can't figure out. I don't want to sit for too long with those tracks. Let's go see if we can't figure out where she's gone. Let's try to close my door again properly. There we go. Magic. Wouldn't be the first time I haven't closed the door properly and then leant against it and nearly fallen out of the car. There we go. Well done, Rusty. We knew we'd get into reverse eventually. Rusty is the vehicle that we're driving at the moment, and Rusty occasionally has the odd problems with going into reverse. A slight reluctance to go backwards, which is fair enough. Okay. Oh, Karula, don't do this to me, girl. Straight into Little Gowrie. Tracks off the road. That doesn't mean she's not coming back, though. Let's cling to that hope. She's going to come through somewhere here. Come on, girl. Oh, poor Joey. I'm sorry, Joey. Brent and myself not doing well at answering your egret question. Most common species that we'd probably see here is the western cattle egret. I've seen one or two of them, or a little egret. Maybe if we got really lucky, we might see a little egret. And then the giant egret, the largest egret species, is also regularly seen in this area. So those are probably the main ones. I wish I had my book with me, but I took it out yesterday to look something up and completely forgot to put it back in my box. I'm sure that Brent, when he does get back up and running, will be able to show you some of the pictures and the differences, because in certain species of egret, the only major difference that you can see the difference between them is by looking at the leg color versus the foot color, or the top half of the leg versus the bottom half of the leg. It's much easier to explain that to you with a picture involved as well. So I'm sure that, Joey, I'm going to bat that question back to Brent as well, just because I know that he will have pictures to show you, and he might be able to demonstrate the differences. Although by the sounds of it, Joey, you are at least, you are an eager birder, so you might be familiar with all of those unique and tiny little differences. It's those sort of things that I love about birding. The same goes for woodpeckers. The different species of male and female woodpeckers. Now I've just realized I've completely forgotten to do something, and that was call those tracks in. Mkonzo for Mafazi Ingwe, cross south into Little Gowrie, just to the, between Shabam and Weaver's Nest. And I'd also quite like to take some tea. Oh no, I looked it. Oh no! Here we go. Get there eventually. I'm just double checking very carefully to make sure Karula doesn't pop out somewhere here. This has been her regular patrol route. It's an interesting choice on Karula's behalf. The fact that she has chosen this area in which to den her cubs. We spoke a little bit about it last night, and the fact that it might have been prompted by the presence of our hyena clan and the ever-growing and success of the hyena clan and their den sites. But this is a main lion highway. The Birmingham boys, the Nkuhumas and the Sticks all use this as a route from the eastern side of the reserve across into Djuma and then all the way to Arathusa. But Karula I trust. She knows what she's doing with those cubs. She's got a lot of experience in a way of keeping them safe. Of course, she's also got the additional protection of the dominant male leopards of this territory. And James Richards, you were wondering whether I have any updates on Tingana or Mvula. Last we heard about Tingana, he'd crossed into Torchwood. He called all the way through the night and then crossed east into Torchwood. But he went straight past my house and then cut away and went to the eastern side of our boundary where we couldn't follow him, which I thought was quite cheeky, to taunt me with calls all through the night and then to promptly disappear. He hasn't been seen since then, James. That was about 3 days ago. He hasn't re-emerged. He hasn't been called in as far as I know. Mvula, last I heard, was seen around in Nkoro about 6 days ago. I haven't heard of any further sightings of him, but of course Mvula likes to duck and to dive and to keep himself in the shadows now as a dispersal male. Quarantine and Shivambalana had a fight last night, according to Peter Danhauser from Nkoro. Peter we were talking to earlier, and if I'd remembered that at the time, I would have asked him all about it. But apparently Quarantine and Shivambalana, both sons of Karula, but from different litters, had something of a scrap last night. Both are absolutely fine, but it is to be expected in an area where now Quarantine was tolerated, because he was quite young, not quite reaching his prime. But now Shivambalana, as the dominant male of that area, might not be terribly keen on the idea of having Quarantine in his territory now that Quarantine is approaching the age of maturity. I think we should go for a drive through the Mawati. That's what we shall do in a moment, once I've checked these tracks. This is one of my favorite moments of every drive, every single drive. A very warm welcome to Unicorn, who is a new viewer and would like to know, is this really live or is this a playback? It's live. Surprise! It is actually genuinely live. It's extraordinary. I still find it amazing that we get to do this and that we get to do this every day, and to bring people from around the world on a live safari couldn't make me happier. Just checking carefully for Karula's tracks here. Yes, it is a live safaris with all that entails, whether it be a quiet morning or a busy morning or a surprise. Elephants popping out of nowhere, strange things happening, wild dogs sprinting across the car in front of you. Nope. I was sort of hoping magically that the wild dogs would appear, but I think I've tapped that resource out. So Unicorn, welcome to our sunrise safari. We are on every day, twice a day, and you are more than welcome to send through questions if you want to, or comments, and you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Would you look at this? The technology is so amazing, we've even got a self-driving car. We don't actually, it's just because the sand is very thick. What we're doing at the moment is driving through one of my favorite areas. I haven't done a river drive since I've got back. I haven't been into the Mulwati, and I thought that it was a good place to pay a visit. The leopards love a good drainage line, nice place to hide themselves away. And there's something there, and I think it's a Nyala, but let us go and investigate. This nice dense vegetation is a perfect hiding spot for all manner of creatures. Not necessarily mammals either. You could find snakes, lizards, special birds that might not be all that commonly seen. Now, I know I saw something move here. Chandra, you also saw it, right? I'm not insane. What just moved through here? We're going to go forward a little bit. Sorry, let me just concentrate on looking into the most ridiculous spike thorn thicket. I think it was an Inyala. That was my instinctive impression, but I only just saw the flash of the movement. And as you can see as we peer in, it is really very, very thick in this patch. Let's just stop and listen for 1 second, see if I can hear movement. Nope. Just the sound of the black-headed oriole and the various birds of this nice area. I'm relatively certain it was an Inyala. I can promise you now, if I thought it were a leopard, things would be very different, but I'm almost 100% sure that it was. What was I doing? Oh yes, I was explaining the show's format to Unicorn. Now Unicorn, some of our viewers watching today and every day have been watching for many, many years and enjoying these live safaris. Oh, how lovely. Definitely wasn't a water buck that I saw, but we have one hiding here. I bet she's quite grateful to have that thick, fluffy coat at this time of year. Something to keep her really insulated. I can't imagine that she's terribly grateful for it in the middle of summer, but then, of course, they're very cleverly adapted, waterbuck, to deal with the extremes of temperature. And as her name suggests, waterbuck, if they can, will spend as much time as possible around rivers, less so around dams, because there they always run the risk of crocodile attack. But in places where there are flowing perennial rivers, they will often wade in and spend most of their day standing in the water, feeding on the soft... Sorry guys, hold on 1 second. They're hiding out in the soft reeds. That was quite an important Game Drive channel update that I was listening to, just because apparently there is a hippo hanging out, hiding in the bushes, that isn't terribly happy, and that's not something any of us would like to encounter on foot. So an important little note, although it seems as though it's more up towards the north, towards Buffelshoek property, than within our area. But I would far prefer to know about hippos like that than not. That they come as a very nasty surprise when you stumble upon them. Yes, waterbuck like to spend as much time as possible wading in the water. With their hollow fibrous fur, they can keep themselves well insulated. They're quite smelly things. There's a musky, dirty, wet dog scent that hangs around wherever a waterbuck has been, and it does linger for an extended period of time, and that comes from the oil that they secrete that coats their fur and helps to keep them insulated. But in areas like this where there are no flowing rivers, then walking around in a drainage line is the next best thing. They like to be quite cryptic, they like to be quite hidden, and they also get very warm, so hiding out in the shade is highly pleasant. Just watching her forage her way through. I think that we should continue on and see what other things the drainage line of the Mulwati has to offer. You'll notice that I did wait it until it was nice and warm. You've got all kinds of beautiful jackalberry trees. Some of my favorite tree species grow around here, whether they be jackalberries or leadwoods, and they lend a certain atmosphere to the light. This dappled, beautiful sunlight, and also just this knowledge that the trees that you're driving past have the most, or at least have seen and watched time spent on this reserve. The last 50, 100, couple of 100 years, these jackalberries and leadwoods have been watching the lives of the animals play out beneath them. And that's my favorite. I love trees. That's one of my favorite things about trees, is the sense of history that comes along with them. Siberia Zumi, as always, a good morning to you and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. You were wondering, as we drive through the Mulwati drainage line, whether or not, or wasn't there a nesting kingfisher of some kind in this drainage line. There are holes in the sand walls, the sandy walls of the drainage line, and I'll stop at a few in a moment. Whoops. Where the kingfishers might have had their nest. It was either kingfishers or bee-eaters. And we never figured out exactly which particular species were utilizing those holes. I didn't see any of them during the breeding summer months, around between October to February, March. I didn't really see the kingfishers going in there. My suspicion, Siberia Zumi, is that they are bee-eater holes. And that's just because I haven't seen all that many kingfishers fluttering about this area of the drainage line. If we go more towards the west of us, then there's a good chance that that is where the kingfishers might be hiding out. And we're going to come around here now and we'll have a look and see. But it could well be the woodlands kingfishers that were nesting there. They, of course, have set off on their migratory routes back towards Central and Northern Africa. So they have left our shores for now. And one of the things that we always look forward to with such eager anticipation when we go into the summer months is the return of the woodlands kingfisher with their bright, shiny emerald blue colors, and then that call that is unmistakable, the whistle and the trill that I find almost impossible to imitate, but that Brian does a fantastic job of. John, I don't know what your bird imitations are, but he's shaking his head frantically at me, so we We won't ask Gendre to imitate the woodland's kingfisher. I can't even whistle, my lips are so cold, so we'll give up on that for today. How's that? I think no, not gonna work. I'm with Anna Marie on this as well, just on the subject of birds that have vanished from our shores, so to speak. Anna Marie's saying that we've seen virtually no wading birds since the sort of the beginning of this drought, and that she misses the storks a great deal. Most of them have flown towards the flowing rivers in the Kruger and further south, the Sabi River, the Sand River. And look, some of them have migrated. The Abdon stork, the black storks, not the black storks, the white storks have started moving off and away from our shores. But I'm with you, Anna Marie, I miss them. The saddle-billed, the woolly-neckeds. I always enjoy watching storks. There's something so peaceful and dignified about them. One thing we'll probably see more of, which is not really wading birds, but part of the stork family, is of course the marabou storks. The more carcasses we see throughout the winter, the more stork species we're going to, or the more marabou storks are going to start scavenging from them. Whoa. Need to remember that occasionally probably steering is quite a good idea. And it's always sad when you come and you have a look at something like this. Oh. Sorry. Rusty once again showing a bit of reluctance to hit reverse there. I'm trying to show you this elephant hole that's been dug in front of us. Now, at one time, an elephant came through here and dug up to get fresh, clean water for itself and for other elephants of the herd. Now, sadly, at this point in this drainage line, the water table will be far too low for that to be an effective way of them finding water. It's going to be very difficult to witness, I think, over the next few months, just to see what happens with the animals. That being said, it's not all doom and gloom, of course, because especially for something like an elephant, first of all, there will be pumped water, but second of all, as browsers, they have far better access to nutrients through the trees. The trees can reach right down to the depth of the soil and utilize the water there. So this area will find a way of surviving. Now, just to go back to our marabou stork conversation, Joey, you were wondering if the carcass at Arathusa Dam, whether or not there's any prospect of it bringing some marabou storks. Absolutely there is, so keep your eyes trained upon the Arathusa Dam camera as the day goes on, and once we're finished with our sunrise safari. And just by the way, guys, Brent's still back at DRC. They are frantically working at whatever the problem seems to be with Wendy, and hopefully he will be up and running. But there's a good chance that you might just be with me for the remainder of the sunrise safari. I love this archway, so beautiful. So Joey, yes, marabou storks, much like vultures, are attracted to large gatherings of scavenging birds, but it just depends upon whether or not there are any marabou storks in the area close enough to identify the possibility of a meal. There's a matter of circumstance and luck involved in that as well. Hello, beefaloes. Here you go. You never know what you might find. A lovely, rather confused as always, breeding herd of buffalo, quite possibly the ones we saw last night. And whilst a herd of dugger boys or male buffalo all carry expressions of absolute disinterest, I always feel as though a breeding herd of buffalo carries a constant expression of bewilderment, as if they find themselves surprised at their circumstances at all times. Got a large bull here, out in front of the herd. And if we're really lucky, we might actually get all of them coming down into the drainage line and crossing in front of us, which will be a stunning view. Again, another animal that, as a bulk, well, as a grazer, is going to find life rather tough over the next few months in terms of food quality. They have to cover far larger distances in order to meet their nutritional requirements. A breeding herd of buffalo moving through an area is not a quiet organism, if I could describe it as such. There's plenty of rustling, crackling, mooing, all kinds of things. Ah, there we go. We've got the first of the brave coming out in front of us. Stopping, as confusion has struck. They're trying to decide which way they're going to go and as to whether or not crossing here is a good idea. Males, as usual, slightly more confident and comfortable than the females. It helps to be a good 400 pounds heavier. It's okay, guys. You can cross. You can sort of see what I mean in terms of having constantly bewildered expressions. Every time they look at you, it's sort of with this expression of surprise. Ah, sorry to draw your attention away, but we've got a blind buffalo coming up to our left, or at least partially blind. Don't disappear, boy, before we have a chance to see. There you go. Completely milky right eye. And not looking in fantastic condition. Shame, old boy. Not actually an old buffalo. I've said old boy, but he's not old. Something has happened. He's very, very thin. Not the worst condition I've seen a buffalo in, but he is thin. His hips are sticking out. He is blind in one eye. We have a fantastic opportunity here in which to do a VR segment. So the virtual reality rig that we have up in the front of the car, the ball of GoPros, that we use to record sort of, not 360, because that doesn't quite work, but basically an all-round view. And that's what we would like to do at the moment. So bear with us, because what that means is basically I'm going to be not taking your questions for now and just recording this buffalo crossing. I'm also going to get ever so fractionally closer to them as they cross in front of us. We're winning there. Rolling, here we go. Ah, yes, sorry, forgot about that. Don't want to scare the buffs, but we're just going to do a sync test. Here we go. All right. Okay, so we find ourselves in the middle of a drainage line on a beautiful winter's morning. Crisp blue skies and buffalo all around us. Very, very thick vegetation. And they're all walking across to the front of us there. Most of them coming from the left. There is a young one making his way down and then crossing this river crossing and up onto the other side of the bank. No buffalo wants to linger for too long, just because there's always the risk of ambush by lions or leopards. Here we go, little one bravely crossing in front, trotting in the sand. The rest of their herd making their way around to the spot that has clearly been designated as a safe crossing spot. And if I had to do a quick head count, looking all around us, I would guess and say, oh, there we go, racing in front with all of the dust flying. I would guess that there being, about probably 100 or so buffalo in this herd, maybe even closer to 200. Surrounded by 200 absolutely enormous animals. Split on either side of us, most of them walking across the front, the rest of them moving behind. Keeping the calves nice and safe at the back. It comes the final female in this particular group. Every now and again you could just hear them mooing away, as buffalo do. And there we go. The final buffalo have crossed, and they've set out to make their way up the drainage line. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to finish off with that. A bit tricky, because with the wide angles of the GoPros, unless the buffalo come right up close to us, then it's difficult to gauge the distance that they're at and the size of the animal from that perspective. Let's go back a little bit, since all of the buffalo have now crossed the Mawati. And we've got a little one to show you before it disappears. Oh, panic, panic, buffalo panic. A herd of buffalo is not a smart thing. Which makes sense, just because they've had to be on constant alert. I'm not saying individual buffalo are not smart. I'm saying a herd of buffalo, just like a committee of people, is not the smartest arrangement. Now, there's plenty of safety in numbers, but there's also almost constant panic. About roughly every 5 or so minutes, maybe every 10 minutes, somebody in the group gets a fright and everybody goes dashing off. It must be absolutely exhausting to live in that constant state of anxiety. Here's our blind buffalo, not looking terribly good. And I said that he's not old. I don't think he is at all. I know it's difficult to tell in this light and from this distance, but I had a brief look at the boss of his horns and the condition of his horns and his face. And from what I could tell, they were the intact horns of a relatively young buffalo. So not a dagga boy or a bachelor male, but around maybe 5 or 6 years old. This little guy is only a couple of months quite possibly even under a year old. Done well to survive this long. There's a little one, growing just the stumps of their horns. And I bet that gets really itchy when those horns first start to come through. And they are, of course, growing from a growth plate on the top of the skull that starts to lay down first soft cartilage and then bone. Oh, we've got some more coming through here. Let's just watch them move. Panic! Panic at the back. Don't leave me behind. But yes, those horns, as they start to grow up, are solid bone, and they will be like that, or they will continue to grow for the rest of this animal's life and be a permanent feature. And Justin, absolutely, apart from having unplugged myself once again, sorry about that. Justin, absolutely. If a buffalo's horns break off, it is kind of like losing your adult teeth. It's a broken bone. It will never... Our bones can set, but if it breaks off completely, it will either start growing strangely if the bone hasn't completely separated, so deformed horn, or it will never grow back at all. If it's completely severed, it will never grow back. And it is living bone, so I cannot imagine that it is terribly comfortable to have something like that occur. It must be rather painful for buffalo, and it does happen. It happens with all of the antelope species as well. And even giraffe. I've seen it happen with giraffe as well. I'm trying to reverse back. I want to stay with this buffalo herd a little bit longer. just because I want to go and see if there's any yellow-billed oxpeckers sitting on their backs. So now we're going to do our river cruise in reverse. Back down the river until we hit the road. Isn't too far away, never fear. So I imagine it must be a bit of a disconcerting feeling watching us drive backwards. What a lovely question that came through from Aqua. I really enjoyed that. Aqua would like to know, as we drive along every day, will I forever glance at that thicket where we saw the African wildcat in the hope of seeing it again? And the reason I absolutely love that question... All right, let's just stop there. Sorry, guys. Don't panic. The reason I absolutely love that question was because it's so true. It's amazing how you can have one amazing sighting in one particular spot, and even though you know in your head that the chances of seeing that animal there again in the same place, very, very small, you continue to look for them. And that applies to everything from Karula or Tundi in this drainage line to Karula on quarantine, anywhere where I've had a sighting, places where I've seen cheetah before, and I just get really excited and always look for them around there. Wild dogs, it applies to absolutely everything. That serval that we had a couple of weeks ago now with VM and myself, every single time I go past that spot, I'm looking for a serval. And I know in my head it's not, yes, animals use regular routes and they're territorial and they are in the same area, but I know in my head the chances of it being on the same termite mound, next to nothing. But yes, Aqua, I shall forever after remember that spot, that exact spot, as the wildcat spot. And that's what I said to you was one of my most exciting, or one of the reasons I was the most excited about going to Cheetah Plains. And it's the joy of working in a place like this for an extended period of time, because it means that every single road you drive down, every place you go has a memory of some sort attached to it. And you'll drive around the corner and you'll think, oh, that's where I fell over when I tried to move the branch out of the road, which I do remember on a regular basis. Or I remember when we saw Mvula there. Or you get the idea. And it doesn't necessarily just involve animals, although given our current profession, they are the stars of the show. But it involves people as well. And of course, working together in a team like this does make us all incredibly close. And so you get memories attached to people as well. Like, this is where Jean-Ray filmed that incredible eagle the one time, or something similar. Jean-Ray is looking at me in confusion. I was talking rhetorically. There wasn't this particular spot. You looked as bewildered as the buffalo there, Jean-Ray. We have lovely news for the last half an hour of our sunrise safari, and that is that Brent has put on his walking shoes and is preparing to take you on a probably quite a brief bushwalk, quite a short bushwalk, given that he's not really meant to be walking as it is. But since it doesn't seem as though Wendy's going to be up and running by the end of the sunrise safari, he's going to be taking a bushwalk. So they're just busy getting that all sorted out, and then they'll be going out for a little bit of a stroll. Thinking it would be a nice moment to stretch my legs, but maybe not in an enormous herd of buffalo. As you can see, and clearly we're not going to even think about trying to follow these buffalo through here, especially given the drought situation and the fact that we don't want to off-road more than necessary in any way. I think we shall, since it has been so productive, I think we shall return to our river cruise. Our dry river cruise. And while Jean-Ray and myself do that, Brent is up and running and on foot. Hopefully not running, he's not meant to be running, but he is up and walking at least. So let's find out how he's feeling about his morning.
So we're back, but as you can see, we're on Shank's pony, not on the vehicle anymore. We've got a question from Justin about why is the acacia tree being renamed. We're sitting here next to one of my favorite acacias. It's called in Shanghai a shangwa, or a scented thorn. The pods have this incredibly wonderful smell, and they're sought after by quite a lot of animals. This is not a very common tree in our area. But Justin's wondering why acacia trees are now called mimosas. I refuse, Justin. For me, it's an acacia. Let me help Dave, sorry, there quickly. I refuse to call them the change of name. Now, the reason being, a lot of science is really wonderful and really great, but quite often a lot of science is quite petty. So the first acacia species was actually named in southern Africa in the 1800s. Now, all the African acacia species have these wonderful big thorns. Now, there are Australians. They also have acacia species, the wattles, and they've basically petitioned everyone to have the wattles in Australia being the only acacia species. I don't know if the argument's over yet. I try not to follow that type of stuff too much, but that's the thing. The Australians have petitioned the scientific community that acacias can only be from Australia and the Africans must be something else, even though the first acacia ever named was in Africa. Well, so you want to say, well, I suppose the Aussies don't have that much to look forward to. No elephants, no lions, so they've got to fight for their trees. But we're going to continue on. Hubert's around, also checking on security detail, also having a look if he can find us anything interesting to look at. So now, in an incredibly dry year like we're going through at the moment, we're going to notice the elephants' feeding behavior a lot more. And we've got this here beautiful big marula in front of us, but I'm afraid it's going to die from what it looks like at the moment. So an elephant, probably a big bull, judging from the size of the feeding area and the height of the feeding area. I mean, look at that. That's definitely a big bull, and it's stripped all the bark all the way around. Now, he's after the cambium layer, and you can't really see it, this has got very hard, but the cambium layer is this inside layer that gives this reddish color, and it transports the nutrients from underground through to the rest of the tree. So with being debarked all the way around, this marula tree is unfortunately going to die. The leaves and everything, even though they're nice and green at the moment, are going to get no nutrients anymore. But it'll be a long process, so there's still probably enough nutrients maybe to last a little bit for the leaves up there. But what will happen next is, as this center section dries out, different insects will come into play. Most likely the most common and the first one is going to be wood borer beetles and longhorn beetles, and they will burrow into the soft marula wood and eat away at it, and actually literally causing honeycomb effect inside the rest of the tree, and eventually that will cause this tree to fall down. But shame, poor old marula. But that's why elephants are one of the only animals that change the environment around them. So in a dry season, they're going to make a lot more clearings, which is not a bad thing. It's just a different thing. We've gone through such a wet period, about 10, 12 years of really wet, and now we're into the dry. So it will change the environment. That will suit some of the other animals like wildebeest, zebra, impala, buffalo, having more grassland. So where there's less trees, the grass has a better chance to grow. So I'm going to try and walk towards where I know one of these marulas has toppled over, and we can go have a look at where those longhorn and wood borer beetles have burrowed into the wood. But it is a beautiful morning for a walk, and nice to do a bit of both in the morning, a bit of drive, a bit of lions, a bit of walk, a bit of insects. And let's have a look here. Now we'll notice something. Got a relatively fresh pile of elephant dung. It's cold, so it's not that fresh. And if we break it up, let's try see what this elephant's been eating. Okay. Now this particular elephant seems to have been eating quite a bit of grass. So it's obviously been taking advantage of the last bit of grass this year. And you can see there's no big twigs in it. But you can see how little, oh, there we go. There's a combretum leaf inside, a little red bush willow leaf. So of course it has been eating some leaves. And of course that's only just in this pat we've dismembered. But majority is grass with some small twigs in it. But this elephant hasn't been focusing too much on the trees yet. Now, if we keep moving, we might find another pile of elephant dung that has been focusing on the trees. Now, when you find a darkish pile of elephant dung like this, even without breaking it open, I can sort of tell that mostly been eating grass. But as it gets further and further into the dry season, we're going to see that there's a lot more red color in the elephant dung, and that's of course from the cambium layer in the trees that they're feeding. Now if we look at a true grass eater that only eats grass, and if we look at a true grass eater, look how dark this dung is. It's very, very black, and that's because grass is high in starch, high in sugars, and that's giving that black color. Now this dung here is zebra, and it looks quite fresh from last night. I think the zebras were sleeping on quarantine clearings, and this is from when they got moving in the morning. You can see it's still quite sticky, and when that one's dropped, you can see how the sand has stuck onto it. Now even if we had to take one that's facing the opposite way, like that, and we stuck it into the sand, there we go. So you can tell that's quite fresh because the sand is sticking on it. So Deborah, a very, very good morning to you, Deborah. Deborah would like to know, will this elephants making more clearings bring in any gazelles? It will not, Deborah. We do not have any gazelles that naturally occur in this area. The closest relative to the gazelle that lives in southern Africa is the springbok, and the springbok lives in the dry and arid areas to the southwest and northwest of us. So gazelles, if you want to see lots of species of gazelles, East Africa is the place to go. Now on the open plains of the Serengeti and the Masai Mara, you've got Thompson's gazelle, Grant's gazelle, and if you move further north, there's certain gazelle species that are really, really adapted to living into very dry desert climates. I'm going to watch Dave. Oh, that was very close. Dave, so focused on his camera work, nearly walked into a buffalo thorn. I should have let him do it, shouldn't I? It would have been really funny. But now, he was about to walk into these nasty thorns on the buffalo thorn. Now, as I was saying, we're focusing quite a lot on dry periods and drought. This is going to become one of the most important trees in the bush during that drought. It is one of our only evergreens, and it's one of the best tasting evergreens, and we can actually eat it. You can pop it in a salad as a lettuce substitute. Dave, would you like to try one?
Sure.
Unfortunately, because we haven't had a good rain year, it's not so sweet this year. So let's maybe try to taste a younger leaf, see if that one tastes a bit better. No. So, poof. Quite bitter. And that's probably because we haven't had a lot of rain this year. There haven't been a lot of nutrients. So you're going to find the same as with quite a few of the grasses, that the trees are not carrying the same nutritional value they would in a very good rain year. But nevertheless, this tree is going to be vitally important for kudu, inyala, elephant, giraffe, and it is one of our only evergreens that is fed on regularly by animals. I'm making my way slowly towards where that large marula that has been fed on by elephants. Oh, there's one closer. Let's go have a look at that. And Ephraim has arrived. Morning, Eph. Hi, everyone. Mova's pugile. So famenyao. They're explaining to F that our vehicle's not working. He's like, why are you walking? You were driving just now. Right, anyway. So after the wood borers come the termites. So here we go. We're at a nice big marula, or not as nearly as big as the other one, but this one has suffered the same fate. And this is now looking at it probably 7 months to a year later, and that answers Siberia's question. Siberia's wondering how long will it take one of those marulas to disappear. And you can see the smaller branches fall off first, and I'm going to try, let's have a look. Where's a nice one to have a look at? Oh, it's a good place to look for scorpions and snakes as well. But let's try and see. I'm trying to find a nice, here we go. So you can actually see pitting here, and it's almost like, I don't know if you can see it nicely there, Dave, almost like a little path that's been eaten. Now, those are wood borers feeding on the edge, and you can see there's multiple different sizes. A big fat one here, I mean the size of my thumb, which is probably from a giant longhorn beetle. Not many get that big, but you can see there's lots of smaller ones, and just those creating those little paths. Now those small holes we can see is where the wood borer has gone in. Now, as I said, there are many different types of wood borers, and let's try and find the sign. There we go. Let me just do this quickly. Oh, that's a bit stronger than I thought. There we go. Oh, sorry. And there's the next set of animals that come along are the wood-eating termites. So I was trying to show you, you can have a look there, Dave. There's the entrance hole for a giant longhorn beetle, and he's the wood borer. So inside this marula now will actually be almost like a honeycomb. So the structural strength has been severely compromised. And then we can see there the next guys who come along, the wood-eating termites. So they will come in and they will utilize a lot of those holes caused by the wood borers. The wood borers are, quite a few of them are probably long gone, and we can see the exit holes, how many of these massive wood borers have been in here. And the termites will now utilize that as a place to get inside the wood without having to chew through it. So they, apart from the wood borers eating this marula from the inside, so are the termites. And you can see here how they've built around the edge as they've moved up the tree, and they'll go in to different places. Now, whoopsie, if we look over here, now this looks like an intact log, but you can see lots of termites being here. This looks quite old, so they're not feeding off it anymore. So I'm just going to, there's a different species of termite on this one, but I mean, if we had to sort of jump on this, it would literally break in half. Oh, hello, Mr. Grasshopper, you see him, Dave? Oh, off he went. But so there's lots of different species of termites, and obviously borer beetles that will take advantage of any dead wood out in the bush. So nothing really goes to waste. So it is an incredible system. And I'm not going to break these up. There we go. This is actually really nice, so we can show you the pitting of the wood borers before they dig in. They just sort of go along the edge. You can see that beautiful pitting there. And sometimes on really hard woods, like leadwood, they create incredible patterns because they're unable to get into the heartwood. So they just stay in that layer between the bark and the main stem, and they just create this incredibly beautiful sort of paths along the wood. Okay. What else do we have out here to have a look at? Now, of course, termites don't only feed on, whoopsie, dead trees. Here we have a very live apple leaf, and you can see there are some termites already feeding on it in the center section coming up from the ground. But we're going to move along now, see what else we can find. So let's jump on board with Jamie.
We have found a female battalier, Gendre doing the most extraordinary job of keeping track of her as she soars through the skies. And there are very few birds of prey that are as striking as an adult battalier. Oh, and she's picked the trickiest spot possible in which to circle. Poor Gendre is doing a magnificent job as she flies around the sun behind us. We are incredibly fortunate to have such dedicated and gifted cameramen. Wait, come back. That's the wrong way. I just love watching them in motion. And you can see how still the air is, because that usual rocking motion of a battalier in flight is there, but it's not battering her about as it or the wind is not battering her about as usual. Usually you get that rock is much more pronounced from side to side. And that, of course, is due to the battalier's severe, almost complete lack of tail. They do have a tail, but it's incredibly short. And it makes them less stable in flight. It changes their aerodynamics. We had a question earlier about what sort of time we could expect to see the birds of prey discovering that carcass, or the scavengers discovering that carcass. We said between 8 and 9, it's now 10 to 9, and the first birds of prey are heading up into the skies. You saw how much she was frantically flapping her wings? It's because the ground hasn't heated up enough for her to ride the thermals. How did I know it was a she? That thin border of black along the edge of her wings, mostly white wings, that is a female battalier. In the males, they're half black, half white on the underside of their wings. One of the few birds of prey out here that display very clear sexual dimorphism in their coloration between the two. Definitely one of my favorite birds of prey. Battaliers are usually amongst the first birds that are awake and soaring, and therefore are usually, given that the level, they can sort of utilize several different levels. They can fly close to the trees along the tree line, and they can also soar right up high with that binocular vision of theirs. And as a result, it means that they can because they can utilize so many different levels, it means that they can discover carcasses and kills far quicker. Not that it's going to be difficult for any bird of prey to find that hippo carcass. It is very much out right in the middle of the open. So I hope you're all going to be watching the Arathusa Dam camera after we finish off the sunrise safari, because we'll have a brilliant opportunity to see some interaction between the various scavengers of the reserve. Brent has found something small, true to bushwalk form, so let's have a look at his insect.
At 3, 2, 1, you're alive.
So we're with one of the apex predators of the insect world, and it looks like a little female mantid, and look how amazing that camouflage is. And you can see she often, where are you off to? We can just try to get her onto my hand for a second. There we go. Oops, no. Oh, shame. She doesn't want to go. You still got her, Dave?
Nope.
There, follow my finger. Oh, she's running. But incredible, incredible. So mimics the grass almost perfectly. So Hubert first spotted her just sitting on the grass here. So she mimics the grass perfectly. And any unsuspecting grasshopper or insect that might meander through will be in big trouble. Let's try and get one last view of her. You can see where she disappeared to. I'm just going to move very carefully. Oh, there she is. You got her, Dad? There she is. Isn't that exquisite? And you can see when she's trying to hide, she puts both her front legs together and puts them straight so she looks like a stalk of grass. Incredible little predator. Incredibly strong for their size. right, Jeb, let's let her carry on with her daily mantid behavior. And it's been wonderful. Oh, look right in front of you, Dave, quickly. It's a spider eating its own web up. So when spiders want to move, they will eat their own web. And because it's a protein and it takes a lot of effort to produce the energy that needs to make the web. So instead of just leaving and abandoning a web, you can see this one's slowly just eating it up. Now that it's got a bit warmer, it's probably getting a bit worried about birds. So it's going to eat up its own web and then find a nice little grass stalk. Look at that. See how it's collecting it together? Incredible. See that? Look at it pulling it right in. Amazing to think how fast it can eat its web. So it's going to eat its web and then it's going to find a nice little spot to hide under, probably a grass leaf, and that's where it'll spend the day. And then when it gets dark again tonight, it'll put up the web again. So Dave and I have definitely had the best of both worlds today. Lions, big, and little spiders. So it's been great having you with us. Hopefully, Wendy will be fully operational by the sunset safari. If not, we'll be joining you on foot again. But till then, bye-bye from us, and let's go back to Jamie for the last few minutes of the show.
Brent has had an interesting morning, poor thing, rushing backwards and forwards in fierce combat with what we have nicknamed the gremlins that occasionally sink their teeth into our technology every now and again. And as he said, hopefully will be up and running. Right, back to James Richards' question. He wanted to know about an update for Tingana. Here's the thing. This morning we heard leopard calling around the Galago Pan and then around behind the lodge and to the east. I'm not sure if Brent ever found tracks, but I've just found them. And judging by their size, I'm relatively certain that it is Tingana that's come wandering up along this road. Unfortunately, I haven't got a nice clear spot to show you them, and he's cut the corner, so he's moved off the road for now. Just been chatting to Ephraim on the Game Drive channel, and he tells me that Tingana cut north onto Zoe's Road and then obviously went around from there towards the Pan. Now, we start to, even if we don't necessarily see our leopards, here we go, I've got his tracks back for you, so I'll pull over so you can have a look. I had his tracks for you, but this is not the clearest. Oh, he's gone onto that side of the road. Here we go. On onto the more tricky side of the road for us. Oh, and the hyenas have walked on top of them. But there you've got the beautiful round toes, much larger than Karula's track. Let me jump out one more time just before the end of the sunrise safari, just to show you a rough perspective of scale. Remember how I stopped and I pointed out Karula's tracks to you earlier and what size they were in comparison to my hand? These will probably be the best, right, Andre? Around here? Maybe these ones. There you go. Much, much larger than the female tracks that we had earlier. Moving relatively quickly up to the north. So we don't necessarily always see our beloved leopards, but we do and are able to build up a picture of exactly where they're moving about. Now, let me jump back into the car. What that means is, and that's one of the reasons why I started that track measuring project, in order to get an idea of the individual track sizes. Because what we can do then, we might never know with 100% certainty that this is Tingana, but we've kind of got used to the size of his tracks. And so we can at least narrow down the list of suspects who left their footprints behind. And so we get a more complete picture, because we are all so drawn to the stories of each and individual leopard's lives, but think about the percentage of time that we get to spend with them. If we're lucky, we might see Karula twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, depending on where she is. And in that time, we'll probably spend about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours with her. Now, calculate that in terms of what percentage of her life that is during the week. Shay Tunny, I have moved away from the tracks, but you've asked a very salient question about it. How can I tell when it's a female track and not a young male's track, first of all? And then, second of all, not a young lion? There's a couple of answers to that. First of all, at about a year old, a male leopard's tracks are larger than its mother's already. So they're already bigger than the size of a female track. Not just that, but a male cub will stay with his mom for up to 2 years. So the chances of seeing his tracks all on their own, without a female's close by, are relatively slim. The male cubs and the female cubs will stay in an area and wait for their mom to come and collect them. Then the other thing is with a young lion's track, a young lion that has a foot the size of the tracks I've just pointed out to you, the big male leopard tracks, a young lion of that age would probably be somewhere in the region of about 6 to 7 months of age. Their feet are just so much bigger. And as a result, you would never ever see a track like that on its own. If it were a young lion, it wouldn't be walking about on its own. You would see it with other cat tracks of the rest of the pride around it. That's the easiest way, because that's a quick way of distinguishing. Okay, that's leopard, that's lion, that's whatever else it is. But then there's also subtle differences in leopard tracks and lion tracks. Lion tracks, their toes are slightly bigger in proportion to the whole track. So the percentage of the track that is the toe of a lion is larger in lions than it is in leopards. Leopards' toes, perfectly little round dots, not as elongated as a lion's, and their tracks in general are just neater. They're like perfect little imprints, pug marks in the soil. And then it's just a matter of practice. It's not uncommon for trainee guides to confuse leopards and lions. It happens, but it's just a matter of practicing and getting used to. Best way to learn tracks is to watch the animal itself. When you get lucky enough to see a leopard or a lion, watch it walk down the road, pull your vehicle over and look at the tracks. And that's certainly how I learned a great deal about tracking when I first started out in this job. And it's probably one of the best ways in which you can do that. Well, we have come now to the end of our safari, but despair not, for we shall be back in the afternoon as always, hopefully with 2 vehicles, but if not 2 vehicles, then certainly 1 vehicle and one of us wandering about on foot. And of course, you've also got all of the actions that's happening at the Arathusa Dam. Thank you, Jean-Andre, for all of your fantastic camera work, as always, and your company, as well as to Rebecca and to Lou in Final Control, who make decisions and help us with directing and sending us through your questions. And then, most importantly, thank you to all of you for joining us on the back of our safari. We'll see you this afternoon. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.